Fertility Lab. I'm going to give you a little 60-minute tour of the laboratory. You'll notice a few things that we do not have laminar flow on many of our hoods. Even if we do have laminar flow on top, we don't run them. Just a simple stereoscope for our retrieval area. Also, with each microstation, we have a stereoscope. Notice over here on the left, we actually have some benchtop incubators. Wasn't a fan when they first came out, but today I say you get more incubator space per square inch with the benchtop, and they do a great job. Have another microstation here on the left with naturally a stereoscope. This is my training area where I have 2 microstations where we also use it for clinical. Conveniently located 6 feet apart for good proper social distancing. We use it for vitrification, micro, ICSI, biopsy, and thank you for watching. Everybody, thank you, Nabil and Progenesis for the invitation. So we'll go to the next slide if we could, please. Typically, I started doing blastocyst biopsies back in the whole genome amplification days, where working with Dagan Wells and sending off samples to try it out. Did some early single gene cases in the late 90s, early 2000s, and before even lasers were used, I used a knife. And the lasers actually proved to be very successful, kind of doing the typical W or V shape going through here. I use this video for my training, mostly because it's a great example of how you have to get into some fresh tissue each time and get into here, and it finally comes off. One of my concerns was that we were using the laser too much. I know some laboratories have requirements to only hit it 3 times. There was a great presentation at ABB last year where they took us embryos and hit them like 2 or 3 times, and then 5 times, and 10 times, and 20 times, and reevaluated those embryos using PGT, and every time the results came out the same. I use this to kind of also show what the sizes are. We could go to the next slide, please. So my concern was the day 6 biopsies. We noticed that the day 6s tend to be a little harder to biopsy, having used the laser a little more. There didn't seem to be any differences in the eupleuria rates between day 5 and day 6. We don't do any day 7 in our program, but one of my questions was, are we increasing the mosaicism? And I've been doing this, I call it snap biopsy or the flick biopsy, for a little over 2 years, and just submitted some data to ASRM for an abstract this year. And, we'll go to the next slide and look at some of that data. So what I did was I looked at using 3 different lasers. We have a Xylos, or 2 different lasers. We have a Xylos and Octax, and doing the snap biopsy. I've since also added the Saturn V laser, and not really seeing anything with that, because I wanted to know, were different people, different embryologists having different eupleuria rates, different no-read rates, and mosaicism rates. And you can see here there's really no difference in eupleuria depending on what we had. Early on, after the first year of looking at it, I noticed my pregnancy rates were a lot higher than the other technicians in my lab. And I thought it was the snap biopsy, but it was probably more along the lines of my cryopreservation technique. And so we altered some of our cryopreservation techniques, and everything is normalized over that. So, and you can see here there's really not any difference in the no amplification rates, other than the snap biopsy is showing a little bit lower. And so that being said, you know, it's a trend to lower pregnancy. It's a great alternative for the laser. If you didn't have a laser, your laser breaks down. I'm going to show you what that looks like in the next slide. You would go to it. So really what it is, I started doing this based on Jock Cohen had asked me to review some PG some biopsy methods. And I saw this, and I'm like, I got to go try it. So I started doing it a couple years ago, and actually really like it. I haven't used a laser for biopsy in some time. And in fact, I was trying not to do we actually do laser-assisted hatching on day 3. And I would like to just not do any hatching personally. And so that's really just popping it off there. And Riley, if you could start that over, a lot of people want to see that again, and I'll describe what I'm doing here. So what I'm doing is I'm focusing on my my holding pipette. If you were to take the timing on these videos, the timing for the laser is about 1.5 minutes. This process only takes about 30 seconds, so you're really doing it very fast. So you focus on that edge of the holding pipette, get some tension on your biopsy needle. And a lot of people are afraid they're going to break their needle. I've never broken one yet. You get some tension on it, you pull down on your biopsy site, and just pop it off there, and it breaks off and release it out. That's really pretty much it. So we'll go to the next slide if we could. So I want to thank you, and if you want to get in touch with me, here's my email, and happy to help you get your SNAP biopsies going.